So you deal with a lot of private and confidential information with government customers. How do you help people trust you? So I've been working under the Privacy Act 1988 since I was 19 in banking, along with other regulatory compliance frameworks around personal information, know your customer or KYC, AML, CTF legislation, which is anti-money laundering, counter-terrorism, and all sorts of other protective frameworks. So this is something that I understand really well and communicate effectively to people who may not be as familiar as I am. Being transparent and direct in my communication really helps too. I've learned a lot from that industry, the financial industry, about best practice on privacy, and I retain a lot of information. I'm kind of like a sponge. And I know the difference between what you can and can't say and the consequences of if you say or do the wrong thing. So for example, on the Positive Start program, we had over 50 vendors that we had to communicate with and send program updates, reporting surveys, a lot of comms. While it is a close-knit community across the state, they're all still competitors vying for the school's choice of camps across the state. So we were careful to protect the information of the individual providers by BCCing people in comms and keep their participation anonymous. And if we did share stories, I would make sure that I would ask permission first in writing or de-identify the story using my judgment to see what was appropriate for the program or referring to the education department to ask their advice. And so, this led to a better flow of communication and easier relationships because I was accountable and could be trusted to be operating effectively. I also understand the consequences of when you do the wrong thing. You know, when you're doing any training or anything, you hear those. If you do send an email to the wrong person, that might have severe consequences, particularly in the spaces I mentioned before that we're talking about around safety concerns and financial information around the work that I've done. So, banking and finance or vulnerable people in the community. So for example, I had a couple applying for a mortgage and I would have their joint application to consider. So on one occasion, I had a customer couple and one of the people in the couple had very clearly had a separate bank account for their own purposes. This account had information in it that jeopardized the loan, and I had to actually decline the loan based on that information. It was an uncomfortable position to be in, but I couldn't say why this was exactly happening. Because that would jeopardize the privacy of the individual. So I had to stick to the facts within the framework and be firm but fair. Give answers within the legislation and say that at the time the loan was not going to be appropriate. You have to be diplomatic in these circumstances. And I'm always careful with the information I communicate. I would hate to tell someone the wrong thing, so I cover myself by putting things in writing where possible for the person to refer back to, and I always try and provide resources. So if the customer's like, I don't understand why you're doing this, I'll direct them to points on our website, free information available to everybody so that they can understand why I'm taking the position I am. This is also how I avoid complaints, because you can't argue with the information if it's plain as day, and it means that people can understand that it's not me making the decision, I'm just referring to the information that's available. So I'm very careful with things. And I'm honest, like I'm a data nerd. So getting data right is something that I value, and making sure that I've got the right information and can tell an accurate, consistent, and unbiased story is important to me. I'm a bit of a chameleon and adaptable to any different situation, really, circumstances or people. In all my roles as a cashier, a lender, a manager, a project officer, account manager, financial triage officer, disability employment services, employment worker, customer care lead, it's all relevant. But even with that adaptability, people always know that I'm me. So that's how I earn their trust.